Good. So, hello. Welcome on Heart to Heart. How are
Thank you.
you tonight?
Good. I'm excited.
So, I don't think you need a very big introduction, but I'm still gonna do one. So, you're Celestalon, and
Mhm.
you do share your real name, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Chad
what?
Nervik. Yeah.
Chad. So people call you Chad, right?
hmm
Okay. Good.
Or by my middle name, which is Purple. That
Purple.
kind of fits me a little more.
Yes. Yes. Indeed. That's your
Yep.
middle name.
Yeah.
That is so intricate to have purple as a middle name.
hmm
Were your parents hippies?
I kind of think of it as like a male version of Violet. You've ever seen
Yeah,
a
yeah,
girl named Violet?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I kind of think of it like that.
yeah. Okay, interesting. Did they give you an explanation at one point or another?
I just think of like purple just fits me so much more. Chad has kind of like a reputation about Chads, and I think purple fits me more. But it doesn't sound quite as like professional, so I mostly stick to Chad for public facing work stuff. But since this is a heart to heart,
Okay, good, good. Well, thanks, purple, or Celestalon, or Chad.
whatever, call me what. Hey, you, I'll answer.
Okay, good. So, you were the lead game designer on the latest expansion that we just saw, which was an incredible expansion with lots and lots of new things, which everyone was waiting for. I mean, seeing a new class coming in, that's a big deal. How do you feel about that?
It is a big deal. Yeah. We did Demon Hunter a few years ago and learned a lot from that. And so we're really excited to bring Arthas and the Lich King here now. I think we learned a lot from that first new class we did about the development process that it takes to make a class. And uh, prepared for that a lot better this time.
How many sleepless nights?
No, not many. Hearthstone is very good um, about healthy working conditions and life balance and such. And well, there may be some things that I was like stressed about of like, oh, are they going to like this, or is is are players going to enjoy this or whatnot? Not too bad. I always want the best for the players and like for the game, and uh, so. Um, a lot of that is just iterating and trying new things and building confidence in them and like identifying what are the things that are going to be like a risk are going to be a challenge and saving time or making an effort to put in the extra work there to get really confident about those like runes for example. I think before launch, or before announcement, we were very worried about like how would runes be perceived by players, and would they enjoy them? Would it make sense? Would it be confusing and feel bad somehow? So we put a lot of effort into making sure runes were conveyed right. Uh, the amount of work that goes into fine tuning like exact wording that we use for like announcements and such is crazy. There's so much iteration that goes into that to make sure that like when a million people are going to be hearing these like two sentences that describe something, you want every word exactly right to have the most people understand and be excited by it.
For sure, for sure. I mean, it's very important that it's clear to the players and it's easy to understand at first. So, um, it must be just a big challenge to make sure
Mhm.
everything is clear for everyone.
It is a big challenge, but it's also a fun challenge. I enjoy that sort of optimization process. A lot of it is like the psychology side of game design, of trying to uh, put yourself in the shoes of or in the mind of a wide variety of players and predict how they're going to react, how they're going to understand, how they're going to like perceive a given feature or card or art piece or whatever.
For sure, for sure. That leads me to my first question. So, what are the challenges related to creating a new class? And I know we discussed a little bit about the runes, which was very specific to that
Mhm.
class, but there must be other things to consider with the synergy of the other class, the lots of, well, I will leave you the floor to explain this.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of challenges that go into making a new class. I think one of the things that we learned most from the development of Demon Hunter was just how tough it was to come up with the perfect hero power, how long that would take, and also how much that would change everything else. So much of the other card design is reliant on that. So we started on Death Knight a little earlier in our normal than what we normally would for otherwise a normal expansion schedule, just to give us extra time to really focus on getting a hero power and core mechanics right early. Because with Demon Hunter, we didn't really anticipate just how much changing the hero power late in the process would cascade into other changes being needed and balance implications and design implications for many other cards. So I think hero power is one big aspect of it. Um, let's see. I think another huge challenge is just making sure the class feels like the class. And what I mean by that is like we're bringing Death Knights into Hearthstone. We want to make sure the like gameplay feel, the vibe through the art, the voices, the play style, all of that really represents and is just dripping with Death Knight feel to it. And we knew that was the case with Demon Hunter, but I think like the rune system really helped that. I think identifying how we were going to mix a very dark character like the Lich King into the very otherwise lighthearted game of Hearthstone. Like it doesn't make sense for Arthas to be cracking jokes. That just doesn't feel like Arthas as he is. So instead, it's finding the places where we can do silliness. Uh, and a lot of that tends to be on the individual cards. We end up with like a very serious hero of the Lich King, but he can play cards like Gnome Muncher, who is a abomination that's ho kind of comical, holding up a little gnome that he looks like he's about to eat. And we get that sort of whimsy instilled into it there, or the skeletal archer that's firing a bow and arrow, but the arrow is another skeleton's arm. Uh, and It's just all sorts of fun little highlights we can do like that to bring the Hearthstone charm of to it, while still making sure that it feels like Death Knight. I think that was the biggest goal that I had with the class was just make sure this feels like Death Knight and it's fun.
Yeah. And that makes me think, how do you feel about players that don't play with sound on?
I think you're missing out. I think a lot of really cool parts of the game uh, are the sounds and the voice lines and the cues of things. The musical stingers that come with legendaries are sweet. Um, I think there is a whole lot of that, but I also understand that like sometimes you're playing Hearthstone on your bus ride and you don't want to have sound on for that, or if you don't have your headphones or something, and maybe it's, you want to be listening to music or whatever. So we always try to account for that and make sure there's nothing that like requires sound. But I do love our sound and audio. Shout out to our audio team.
Yeah, definitely. As a streamer, I don't put the sound on because I just like music, chat, the game. There's so many things
Hmm.
going on at the same time. I feel that sound is like another thing to add to all of this, but I'm
Hmm.
probably missing out as you mentioned. We talked about the challenges about creating a new class. What about creating a new minion type?
Hmm. Yeah, undead. Undead is something we've been thinking about for a long time. Uh, and I I think the direction that we had for undead was not until we do dual minion types, and that was kind of a big step that we needed a whole bunch of uh, engineering work to support and design work to support. Um, and the reason I say that is because most of our minion types, basically everything except pirate, uh, were uh, exclusive. Um, it's it's hard for something to be both a totem and a beast. It has to be something really weird, like something like an amalgam that is specifically designed for that purpose. Uh, Most things aren't totems and beasts, or like a dragon and a murloc. Uh, but the problem was pirates. Pirates are sort of like a vocation, like a job, a life choice. And so it totally is possible for there to be like a dragon pirate or a demon pirate. And that was always a challenge for us in that we had to just sort of choose one. Uh, and which is why Patches the Pirate are one of the most classic cards from early Hearthstone. Like if you look at the art, that's a demon. Uh, but we wanted to be pirate synergies, so we made a pirate. Um, so we just had to pick one, and that led to a lot of times we just avoided doing characters that we otherwise would because they'd be dual type, and we'd have to just pick one, and so it would be unclear. Um, and that brings us back to Undead, where there were a lot of cards already in the game that would make sense to be undead. Tons and tons of cards that were you would expect them to be undead. And if we added undead, we'd have to go back and change them all to undead, which is fine. We did end up doing that, but they already were combined with so many other minion types. There's a ghostly pirate. It's got to be undead and it's got to be pirate. That sort of thing. So we knew we didn't want to cross that line of adding undead until we had the dual type technology. Um, and we thought the point where it was going to be worth it to do that was probably when we added Death Knights. At that point, we'd want to do undead, and it would fit very well with Death Knight. Uh, so that addresses the timing of things. But then the question was, how do we make a like in any given minion type, whether it's Naga or pirates or undead, we want them to have some sort of thematic like play style, some sort of common pattern that they have, so you know what to expect from like synergy cards for undead or things that the undead themselves do. Um, with undead, the one of the common things that they do, we wanted them to be able to come back to life, and Reborn fit that perfectly. So Reborn was a great fit for that, as you'll commonly see Reborn, and we loved Reborn's gameplay, so we were looking for a good opportunity to bring it back into being an evergreen keyword too. So that fit perfectly. But then there's also the question of like what sort of synergies there are for undead. And during like very early development of Death Knight, um, John came up with this pattern of uh, if a friendly undead died in the last turn, or we had a couple different wordings of that, and we really liked the gameplay of it. But we kept going around and around about what exactly the best wording was, and we kept being like, okay, we'll figure out a better wording later. But we really liked the gameplay for this, so we stuck to it. And I think at the end of the day, that's probably one of the things that, as a design team, we're least like satisfied with is the wording on that. If a friendly undead has died since, or no, after your last turn, we went around and around on whether it should be since or after on that. A lot of good arguments on both sides of that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I remember reading that card in theory crafting and being like, huh,
it's
wait a
hard to
minute.
understand.
No, but
Yeah,
it,
it
like when you think about it, it makes sense, but like you kind of have to like play it a bit to like
yes.
understand it.
Yeah, and also like one of our goals for card text is to make it so you don't have to like stop, pull out of your flow and think about it. It's so much better when a card you can just like read it once and get it. And I think we're probably kind of dissatisfied about how the reading of the undead synergy phrase went out. But I don't know if we change it at this point. We still don't have another great option. But we thought the gameplay was worth it. And okay, it's weird. Players are gonna play it once and then get it, and okay, they'll move on. And just remember when they see that phrase, that's what it means. So we just sort of accepted that that's one of the places where we couldn't find a perfect solution, but we didn't want to let perfect be the enemy of success. Whatever that phrase. I always mess up that phrase. What is that idiom?
But yeah,
Uh,
it's dead
yeah,
after your last turn.
yeah.
Yeah. But it reminds me of the last card I did a reveal on. It was Cool Teacher. It was the
Hmm.
Naga was just got in and Cora was in to explain the card, same as you
Hmm.
are here today. And so one thing that was add was like teach. It was a word that like one other card add in Hearthstone. It's not something that was revisited after that one card. So it was difficult to know like can the spell be targeted? Is it random? Like
Yeah,
how so you needed to play with it like one or two times to see how it would like react
yeah.
on the board when it's like
Hmm.
specific term that has never been a mechanic more than like a one-time deal word. There's not a lot of these.
Yeah, there's not. We we try to write card text in a way that feels like natural English or whatever language. Like naturally, you just if you're explaining your friend how this works, it's the sort of language that you say. Try not to make it like super legalese, like game rules sort of language. Try to make it more friendly and colloquial. And sometimes just that means we use words that aren't exactly a like mechanical established meaning, but you just sort of yeah, I guess I would guess what that means, and okay, yeah, I end up right most of the time. And maybe there's questions, but it's a one-off card. You try it, you learn it, and that it ends up being fine.
Yeah. Well, similar to the phrasing of the undead you were mentioning, I think that
Hmm.
you do it once and like
Yeah.
it's not that complicated. It's just like there's so many words that you need to just like assimilate all of them. And like the first time you play it, you thought it was and then it's not, or you thought it didn't and then it lights up. I think at least it's in yellow when it works. So like you
Yeah.
know. I remember a card back in the days that didn't like yellow up when it was And
Hmm.
then everyone was always like, why don't we make it yellow so we know we did it or we didn't, or we did not achieve all the steps to get it.
Right. We only, I think it was like a couple expansions in where we started being consistent about trying to do that wherever possible. I think we went back and applied that to everything prior, but it's always possible we miss something or there's some weird interaction that makes it not possible.
Yeah, I think it was like in classic when you played like was it with like a battle cry, but you don't know if like it. Anyways, I will tell you the name of the card. But anyways,
Okay.
since we got back to classic 2 years, a year and a half ago, probably,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
it was like funny to re-see how cards would like interact from like the good old
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question. How many cards do you design before narrowing it down to the final amount we see now?
Um, Hundreds. Well, I guess hundreds kind of is at least obvious because there are
Yeah.
we've launched 203 cards. This expansion was the largest single drop of cards that we've ever done since initial launch of the game
Because
eight
the
years
add
ago.
of the new class that adds
Yeah,
cards to the pool.
203 cards is a lot. It was such a challenge to be able to handle that like large volume of cards. Um, but how many do we make during like initial design? I would probably say something like this time around, probably close to 1,000. Um, a lot of that is um, things that we try and then scrap, or things that we try and that inspires some other idea and we transform it into that. Um, there's all sorts of ideas that also may be like fun but don't fit right in this expansion or don't fit right in these sort of deck archetypes that we're going for, and we'll save them for later too. But something on the order of close to 1,000, I'd probably say. And so that means, hey, less than 20%, roughly 20% of those ship, right? I think when I very first started on Hearthstone, uh, I was working under Ben Brode, and I went in with the mindset of like, here are 50 card ideas. I expect they're all terrible. I'm just if that's not true and there's a good one in there, great. But my expectation is they're all terrible. And so, but I would learn from that. And it's that iteration process that lets us create such fun gameplay. Uh, is by like, okay, we try all sorts of things, and then through playtesting and experimenting with them, we find what's fun and what's not fun. Um, I look at all sorts of like custom Hearthstone cards that I see the community make, and that's always super cool to see that sort of passion from the community. Uh, and a lot of times I can look at a custom Hearthstone card and say, that sounds really cool. It's actually really unfun to play with or against or something. But like without actually being able to try it, there's no way you'd know that. Very promising design, but we tried that 3 expansions ago and it felt terrible to play against. And that's just because we can try all sorts of things and play test them and see what's fun and what's not. And it's really not obvious just from looking at card designs what's really going to stick until you try it. So there's lots of ideas on the cutting room floor, and they're there for a reason.
Are you kind of referencing this to Tiotar?
No, I wasn't thinking of that at all.
the
Yeah.
enemy of ladder in the last
But
months.
but that is a good point of like one of the things that's we know from players playing things and playtesting is just how frustrating negative impacts to the opponent can be. How much you took my thing just viscerally feels bad more than just me gaining something. Like a card that says you lose a card feels way worse than a card that says I gain a card. It's just your opponent doing their thing and you doing your thing, and both seeing which does their thing better tends to be more fun. But if we don't do any of those sort of negative effects, it feels a little bland, a little non-interactive, a little uh, um, like there's a category of player that really likes to do that sort of thing. Take like a card like Gnome Feratu, which back in Knights of the Frozen Throne, it destroyed the top part of your opponent's deck.
Yeah.
That has no power impact to it, almost at all, almost nothing. But it still feels so bad to your opponent, uh, especially to some players. But some players also really like it. So there's this sweet spot where there are cards that are very like either fun for players who really like that, but not power level strong enough that people see them very often, or we get a lot of gameplay out of it. Like I think there was a lot of good gameplay out of Theatar that offsets the feels bad aspect of it for most players. Not everybody. I know there's some real haters of Theatar out there, um, but that's okay. We're gonna have some cases that aren't, and we're also gonna have like things are temporary in Hearthstone. Theater is not in the meta all the time.
Definitely. And I'm definitely on the side of liking, like I really like that card back in the days, the gnome. For me, like it feels I feel better losing if I was able to like trash some of his card for some reason. This I kind of feel like I gained something out of it,
Yeah.
even if I lost at the end.
Well, at least I burned your good card. Yeah.
Yes. For some
Yeah.
reason, I feel better about it. So I
It does.
guess
Yeah.
I'm definitely on that side of the spectrum. I used to play Control Priest back when Elucia was a thing, before the
Mm-hmm.
nerf. So it was effectively a bigger Tiotar. But so I definitely like cards like that, and I know that other people don't. I feel that a lot of frustration from the last months were the Tiotar and the Natrius together is just like
Mm-hmm.
in every deck. So like when there's only like
Yeah.
one card, there's two cards, and it's like
Yep.
they play, you lose. I think the
Yeah.
Natrius, the combo with Tiotar was like, let me steal your Denatrius and kill you with your Denatrius.
Yeah. And that highlights another thing about uh like the psychology of things is that players remember the thing that ended the game uh, a whole lot more than the things that started the game or got pushed them along in the middle of the game. Um, which is why we tend to make like core cards be more sort of workhorses, get you through the middle of the game, and expansion cards tend to focus on like win conditions and things to end the game, so that things in that way, the parts that you remember most are changing over time as different expansions cycle through.
Interesting. So how many mechanics do you typically vet per expansion?
Mm. Um, Not quite as many as cards. We don't cut 80% of the mechanics that we try, but we iterate on them, I would say. Uh, with March of the Lich King, we ended up shipping, depending on how you count things, like what did we say? Death Knight's huge, of course, but like Mana Thirst, Undead, Reborn coming back. The overall sort of mechanics for the set are fairly light, uh, other than, hey, Death Knight is going to be a massive thing impacting the game. So we could go light on the set mechanics. Um, other expansions might be the reverse of that. There's not a new class, so they're heavier on mechanics. We have Dredge and Colossal in Sunken City, for example, and so we probably try out like 4 or 5 potential mechanics or something. And a lot of times those are the sort of things that come back later in other expansions that once we've iterated on them more. So that's pretty common. Um, I think uh, locations, for example, were started all the way back in Alterac Valley, iterated on them a couple times before finally made it to in Castle Nathria. Um, but some mechanics just don't fit at all, or at least haven't found a spot for them to fit yet. And so it's always sort of a balancing act of like, okay, find the best ones that fit for this set, the ones that like provide the right amount of complexity to add into this set, that sort of thing. And that could be a lot of fun to explore those sort of mechanics. And then once we've got mechanics that we like, it comes down to making a bunch of cards using them. One of the big things that we're evaluating with mechanics that we're trying out is just how much room there is to build a variety of cards, and a variety of cards that feel class specific. Something generic enough to be able to use it in different ways in different classes, and those cards feel like those classes still.
And do you have a favorite class to design for?
Um, well, lately Death Knight. Uh,
Of course.
that, but beyond that, throughout the history of Hearthstone, I'd say my favorites to design for tend to align with my favorites to play, which have been mages and druids for the most part. Um, Demon Hunter too. Uh, Surprise, those are also the classes that I've played the most in WoW. Um, yeah.
Okay, good. And where do you find inspiration in your design process?
Um, Short answer is everywhere. All sorts of games, movies, things will inspire mechanics or cards. Um, some cards are we. Oh gosh, I always mix these up. What's the word? There's top down versus bottom up, and I think top down is when you come up with some flavor idea of like I've got this character from WoW, like Sire Denathrius. How do what's the right design to make a Sire Denathrius card? And bottom up is the opposite version of that. Of like, I've got an idea for a cool card design of like what the card text is. Okay, this is a minion that does a lets you learn like create a token that learns a spell that you get to discover, and then you come up with the right flavor to sit on top of that. Oh, okay, this is a school teacher, that sort of thing. Uh, but inspiration can come from anywhere. I think the number one source for me is always WoW, because we're a game based in the Warcraft universe, and the Warcraft universe is very rich in ideas and abilities and characters source material in general. That sort of story to be told through cards and abilities that you can try to replicate if not the mechanical version of, the feeling of, um, and try to come up with like what's the Hearthstone version of this.
Good. Do you have a top three favorite cards from this expansion?
Top three favorite cards from this expansion. Um, Overseer for Jadara. Uh, Frostworm's Fury. And
Very powerful card. Very.
yeah, I am personally, I love Frosty K. Uh, Part of the challenge of designing a game like this is designing not just for yourself but for all sorts of other players. So like we have to design Unholy and Blood and all the other classes to fit right for a variety of players. But it's also fine to recognize your own personal preferences. And Deep Frost is right up my alley. That's my playstyle of choice.
Good. Are we gonna
Um,
see you play a couple of Deep Frost in your co-ops this week?
yeah, absolutely. I did already with Clark this morning.
Nice, nice.
But yeah, okay. And a third favorite card. I think I want to say. Um, Looking at the Paladin ones, I really enjoyed getting Blood Knights to, into Hearthstone. Oh, Invincible is a really good choice too. Um, I'll go Blood Matriarch Liadrin.
Okay.
Uh, even though I haven't seen her tearing up the ladder, just flavor wise, I really like seeing Liadrin in her more vengeful style.
I've been playing
Uh,
with her. I've been liking it.
she's not bad. She's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also great friends with her voice actress,
Okay.
who is a wonderful person. Shout out to Misty Lee.
Yay! Shout out. What's her name?
Misty Lee.
Missy Lee. Shout out to Missy Lee.
Yeah.
Good. When you determine to use the words like mana thirst, and at what point does an effect that is used in one of the at what point is it you decided to make it like a word that is used all over the expansion and it's gonna be predominant?
Oh, like when do we make something a keyword instead of
Yes.
just
Yes.
uh yeah. There's always a design question of at what point do we keyword some effect? Um, and there are several sort of things that are on the table to consider for that. Um, think about the reasons that we have a keyword. It's so that we have shorthand for some phrase or effect. We could have every battle cry card say, when you play this, some blank. But it saved us a lot of room on the card and a lot of just like recognition and mental, just like skimming a card, you understand very quickly what battle cry means. The other reason that keywords are valuable for us is that we can have sort of synergy cards. Like your battle cry cards cost one less. Okay, that means that card that used to say when you play this now says battle cry, and that means there's these interactions between cards that we can build that are very elegant and very easy to understand. We don't need a whole lot of rules text to understand that. Um, so when do we keyword something? Well, when it becomes common enough on cards that uh, we think it's worth it to not have to put the full text, the when you play this equivalent. Um, there is a downside to consider too for keywords of, well, if you don't know what battle cry means and you see a card that says battle cry, you don't really know what it does. Sometimes we have keyword names that are uh, like you can guess what it does based on the name, um, but that's not always the most clear. So it is something to learn. So if a keyword is only on like two cards, we're not really saving any time because that card could have just said the four words of the phrase of when you play this, and um, that would be more worth it. Um, a good example of that is the uh, can't be targeted by spells and hero powers. That's on a number of cards. I think in the history of Hearthstone, there's something like a dozen cards that have done that. It's kind of a recurring thing that we see occasionally. And so internally, we refer to that as evasive. So if we keyworded it, we'd probably call it evasive. Um, but the questions there are, okay, by keywording it, it's now something that players have to learn. Do we, uh, is that worth it? Well, there's like in standard, which is usually the metric we're looking at there, there's like two, now maybe three cards that use it. Is it worth it really? Probably not. Uh, Another aspect of that is by saving space on those cards, does that make it so that we can put more interesting effects on it? Like that just gives us more room on the card to put things. Does that help us out here? And in that case, the answer is not really. There's not a whole lot uh, of like more complex designs we want to use on those cards. So not really that much. Another question is, do we want to do any sort of synergy cards with that? The sort of thing that's like your evasive cards cost less, or give a minion evasive. Well, maybe, but we've tried out some card designs where we've done the like give a minion can't be targeted by spells and effects, and there aren't a whole lot of really fun designs in there. So no, we don't think that's really worth it either. Um, Another similar one that's like on that border of maybe at some point we'll keyword is cleave. We could keyword cleave, uh, but really the cases where we just say uh, when this attacks, it also damages adjacent enemy minions. That's good enough most of the time now. Um, you also asked about the naming of keywords, of like how did we come up with the name of Mana Thirst and when does that happen? Usually we have some sort of name in that we start with, and then build the mechanic and try it out and evaluate, is this a fun mechanic that we want to ship? And then once we've done that, we iterate on like, okay, what's the perfect name for this that's going to be uh, like the best hit for flavor, the best like expectations of what it's going to be, whether you can guess what it does based on just reading it, whether the name is going to remind you of what it does if you forget, that sort of thing. And in the case of Mana Thirst, well, it does something with mana. That's a good reminder. And Thirst was something like, okay, you need enough of this, or you want more mana. And it played mostly thirst was there because it played into the flavor of the blood elves and their story with like this addiction to magic and like magical energies that they have. If they don't get mana, like they start withering and die. And So it goes to their benefit to be flush on mana. Um, yeah, so it was just a lot of iteration on what exactly the wording is, and that also happens to like, okay, what's the exact spelling we use? Like, do we put a is it mana space thirst or is it one word? And all sorts of decisions to be made there. What looks better on a card? Whether one's shorter or longer than the other, etc.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Um, One more Hearthstone question, then we dive a little bit more into your personal side. So, is there a mechanic from the past that you would like to make it come back and and use it a little bit more in a next expansion?
Hmm. Um, let's see. I think there's some good options out there. I think Reborn, for example, we brought back this time, and I think that's worked out great. Um, I think we've had a lot of cool mechanics the um, in the past. Um, I'm blanking on the name. What was uh, what was the Rise of Shadows mechanic that you got to double cast something? Uh,
Um,
why am I blanking on the name for that? Uh,
Lackeys?
no, it's like when you cast it, it adds another copy of it to your hand. Uh, Twin Spell, yes, Twin Spell.
Twin spell.
I personally would be excited about Twin Spell. I think another good example of a really cool effect that a really cool mechanic that we've done is tradable. Um, I'd love to see tradable explored again in the future. There's a lot of options. Not promising that either of those are specifically happening, uh, but
No, of course, I'm
like
talking more about your personal liking
yeah.
and
So that's why personally
your.
I think those two are good things worth exploring. I don't know if
Okay,
they're right, but it's also a matter of like what's the right uh, reason to bring them back, the right setting to bring them back. Like Undead provided the perfect reason and use case for Reborn to come back and actually see more consistent play. Uh, if we did a very spell focused expansion, Twin Spell would be worth exploring or something.
definitely.
It's just a matter of what's right for the expansion and for the card sets that we're gonna explore that year, that sort of thing.
Thank you. What's your educational background?
Um, Very different from uh, a lot of people. Um, in like grade school, I was in advanced classes most of the time, and then in my junior year of high school, I got hired to work with Microsoft, uh, and um, worked with Microsoft through my junior year and senior year of high school, uh, uh, and then I applied to college and got accepted, but decided not to go because I was already working for Microsoft. It's like I didn't feel like do I really need to go through 4 years of college to get a degree so I can get the job that I already have? Um, so I did not go to college, and I never went back. I do like support higher education in general for most people. I think learning is super uh, learning and always growing as a person is super important. It just wasn't right for my personal path through life, uh, but I still generally recommend it to most people.
And what was your position when you started at Microsoft?
I was a programmer. I worked with their enterprise sales team, making tools, internal tools for their enterprise sales team. As a .NET programmer, working in C Sharp and ASP.NET.
Wow. How did they find you though?
Fun story. So I don't know if you've this will seem like a real weird tangent, but I don't know if you have this brand over there, but there's a brand of cooking equipment called Pampered Chef, and their model for selling this is parties hosted by one person, and there's a Pampered Chef sales consultant that will go to people's houses and demo all the cookware for their friend. If you've heard of Tupperware, Tupperware
Yes.
is also
Yes.
built the same sort of model. My mother was a Pampered Chef uh, consultant, uh, and so she's visiting other people's houses all the time and meeting tons of people and selling them cookware. Uh, Really good quality cookware. Uh, uh, One day she goes to goes to one of these parties and meets a guy there who mentions that he's starting his business being a consultant for Microsoft um, uh, after getting out of the Air Force. He's got connections to Microsoft and writes software. And my mother is very proud of her son, but has no idea about technology at all. She's completely like computers break in her presence, so she has no idea about it. But she just knows her son plays on the computer all day, every day. So she raves about her smart techie son, and the guy says, "Here's my card. Have him call me." Uh, and so I did. And it turns out when he was a kid, someone uh, took him on as an apprentice. It was a jewelry making business actually, uh, and taught him how to uh, that taught him that trade and how to be a good like employee and person, and from when he was pretty young, and totally changed his life because he was practically homeless or something as a kid. Um, and he wanted to pay it forward and wanted to have take on an apprentice as well. So I met with him and he liked me and saw potential in me and took me on as an apprentice. I was 15 at the time, and it was me and him writing software for Microsoft, and he taught me the Microsoft style programming and .NET, C Sharp, and I learned all that. Uh, by the end of high school, I just took work credit as half my classes, or more than half my classes. So I went when everyone else went to lunch. I drove off to Microsoft, and uh, yeah, it was that guy was like had the largest impact on the course of my life of anyone aside from my parents. Uh, I'm very thankful for that opportunity. And honestly, like a lot of that was just luck. I was in the right place. I had the right mother who met the right person and made that connection, and it completely shifted the course of my life.
Are you still
Uh,
in contact with that person?
no, not for a while now. I stayed working with him and that team for I was employee number 2 next to him for that little small company that just contracted for Microsoft. Uh, we lasted for about 7 years until Microsoft decided to stop contracting out work to external teams like that. And So the company kind of died at that point, which was really sad. But uh, yeah. Then a year after that, I got the job at Blizzard, and that's where I've been ever since.
Nice. Nice. That's a good story. That's a
Yeah, yeah.
good... Um, do you have any advice for someone that wants to follow your footsteps?
Good question. Like you've heard, my specific route through life has been very unusual and required quite a bit of luck, honestly. But if you want to be a game designer, uh, I would say my advice is to design games. There are a lot of tools out there that are free for learning how to be a game developer. Um, there are also colleges and universities that have great programs for game design now. Um, and just have a passion for games, but not just playing games. Also think about like what would be the best like it's easy for players to identify problems, not very easy to identify solutions. And when you do think of solutions, it's easy to think of like what would be a solution for me, not what the overall impact that would have on the game and all the other players that play it. And that's the sort of thing that you start developing from uh, like it's really hard to get that until you're actually making games yourself. So like make a little mobile game, make an indie game that get it on the one of the app stores and even if it's just a Minesweeper clone or something, like you get that experience of like what it's like to think outside yourself, to think of how other players are going to react, what the challenges are going to be. You may worry so much about the gameplay of your fun little game, and you have some game breaking bug where like it crashes for half the people, and that needs to be your focus. And you just start seeing all of the different aspects of game development that there are that you don't really think about as a player playing a AAA game and being in your world. Um, there's just so
Definitely.
much that goes into thinking of all the different people that play your game and people that you want to play your game but don't.
No, definitely. So that leads me. I really like the purple hair. Do you always had purple hair?
Uh, I consider purple my natural hair color.
Okay.
Uh, and um, I've I've had purple hair for like 8 years now. Um, it's been some combination of either just light and dark purple or like purples and sometimes bits of blue. Um, the like I used to do hair. I used to do other people's hair
Really?
for yeah. I've done hundreds of people's hair as a really fun hobby. All vivid, vibrant colors. Um, and um, I kind of stopped once pandemic hit, and I got out of the habit of doing it. But it was just another creative outlet for me of like dyeing tons of people's hair. For March of the Lich King launch, I went icy blue because I wanted to be like on brand and on theme for that. But just this past Friday, I got to go back to my natural color.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the blue. I really like.
I enjoyed it too, but it doesn't feel like me. When I look in the
Okay.
mirror, it's like, who's that? So
Do you do it? So you do it by yourself. You don't do it like in a salon.
I do go to a salon for mine.
Okay.
Doing multiple colors on yourself is really hard, and not missing spots on yourself is really hard. So I do other people's, but I for mine I have a wonderful stylist that I go to.
So Tyler would definitely need some tips from you because he burned his hair
Yes.
a month
Yes,
ago.
he did. He did. He lightened it a couple times and went like at first
He
he
had to
said, "Oh,
shave it.
yeah." At first he said he was gonna spread multiple lightning out because he was trying to go super light. I'm like, great idea. And then like 3 days later he did it again, and I was like, ooh. And then the next day he had shaved it off. I'm like, yeah, yep,
That must burn. That must.
yeah.
Well, that's good that you're going to a professional salon. But yes, let's give some tips to Tyler. So do you
Hello,
have
Tyler.
tattoos?
I do. I have a couple. When I joined the WoW team, I uh, I had been playing a druid as my main character in WoW for a long time. I strongly associated with that character, and worked on WoW for a little bit, and then we added monks, and I wanted to. Uh, I had been thinking about getting a druid themed tattoo for a long time, but when we added monks, I switched to monk as main, and I sort of retired my druid, and I got uh, that as sort of a memorial to my bear druid. So that's the icon for bear form for druids. Um, then I worked on WoW for 7 years and switched to Hearthstone. And after I switched to Hearthstone, I got this,
Oh,
which is a memorial of my time on WoW. And so my avatar on the forums for WoW was Celestial Dragonling, baby Celestial Dragon. So the Celestial Dragon is now me all grown up as a designer. And then there are 5 symbols around the sides for the 5 WoW expansions that I worked on. So Cataclysm, Battle for Azeroth, Legion, Warlords of Draenor, and Mists of Pandaria.
nice.
And the art was originally, I commissioned a wonderful artist named Fabelina to draw it, and then found a wonderful tattoo artist named Charlene that would turn it into a good tattoo. Other fun fact for a couple months it glowed in the dark. I got all the stars done in glow in the dark ink, but glow in the dark tattoo ink, at least several years ago when I got it done, did not doesn't last very well. So while the rest of it has lasted pretty well, the glow in the dark doesn't glow in the dark anymore.
Oh, that's devastating. But do you have pictures of when it would glow in the
I
dark?
do. Yeah,
Okay.
I do.
Okay, we would love to see that. Post it
I
on
will. I
Twitter.
will.
Post it on Twitter.
I will do that. I will do that.
Good. Do you have a pet?
I do. I do. My girlfriend and I have 2 pets. One of which is sleeping right behind us right now. Hold on.
Oh, so cute. Hello, sweetie. Hello.
Hello.
What's
This is
yeah?
this is Shirvala. Name
Shervala?
Yes, named after the tiger Loa from from Roxicon's Rumble and trolls in general.
Oh, so
She's a
cute.
beautiful little kitty, and she is polydactyl, which means she has extra toes. So I call her Shirvala, the Loa of toes. She has 26 toes. Do you want to
Ah,
oh,
so
you want to show your toe beans off
she's
to the camera?
polydactyl?
Yes, she has so many toes.
Yeah, my cat is the same.
Yeah, you got a
Yeah.
polydactyl cat?
Yeah,
They're
but
so
mine is a
fun.
lynx. You saw him, like he's pretty big.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Well, you can kind of see.
my god, she's
She's
so
putting up with
cute.
me a little bit, but yes. Link.
Oh, she's amazing.
And I can run and grab Mams if you want to see Mams too.
Yes, of course, of course.
Okay, hold on.
Yes. We have two more questions after that. Do 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 do. Oh, she was so sweet. Do you guys like cats? Ah,
Hello.
hi. Oh my god, so big.
Ah, hello.
Ah. Oh my god. Is it she or he?
She. Her name is Mams. She looks like a potato. She's about as
Uh,
active as one. All she wants to do all day is sleep. I love her very
Oh
much.
my god. She's hilarious. She's
Yes.
That's really cute. Ma'am the potato.
Ma'am. What?
Oh. Does she like streaming?
Okay.
Does she like streaming?
Hmm?
Does she like streaming?
Uh, she doesn't usually stream very much. She's more into the photos.
Oh, okay, the
Yeah,
photos. That's good. That's good.
yeah. She's a good photo,
So you mentioned your
but she's
girlfriend.
sleeping. Hmm.
You mentioned your girlfriend. So you said she's a streamer. Who is
Yes.
she?
Her Twitch name is Zwan the Fawn. She is streaming right now. Um, hold on, I will link.
And so we can say hi to her.
Yeah. There we go. She
Nice.
streams WoW, Variety, um, uh, FF14, uh, indie games that come out. Yeah.
Nice.
Met her
Nice.
at BlizzCon at a fireside gathering for Hearthstone.
Impossible.
Hmm.
Did you really? So she plays Hearthstone.
She mostly plays Battlegrounds these days.
Wow. Such like
Yeah.
a oh BlizzCon. We want BlizzCon back. We want
I want
BlizzCon.
BlizzCon back too. BlizzCon was such the like highlight of the year.
Fireside gathering hookups. That's funny. Okay, so we say hi to her. And can someone makes a shout out in stream so we can go and follow her also?
Okay,
Okay,
go, ma'am.
we have two more questions. So, do you have any
Okay.
food allergies?
Any food allergies? No. No food allergies.
Do you have other allergies?
No, no other. I don't have any allergies at all, as far as I know.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Do you like cheese?
I do. I do like a wide variety of cheese.
Okay,
Yeah,
top three
I think.
cheese.
Top three cheese. It's hard to beat just cheddar. Cheddar goes on a lot of stuff. Uh, Gorgonzola's good. Um, Asiago. I like Asiago.
Okay, good.
Yeah, there's three.
Okay, what's your favorite place to order to?
Uh, there is a restaurant near us called The Stand that makes a short rib grilled cheese. That is probably my favorite go-to uh, grilled cheese. Favorite go-to delivery food.
Ooh, that looks nice. Yeah, bonus
Really good.
question.
Yeah, really good.
If you were to cook a romantic dinner to your girlfriend, what would you cook her?
Um, I'd probably say uh, some risotto and soy glazed salmon. She's
That
pescatarian, so it'd
that
probably
sounds
be something fish.
okay. That sounds delicious. What do you put in the risotto?
Uh, there was I was on a Gordon Ramsay cooking show once, and he made some risotto that I'd try to copy. It was mushroom and cheese risotto. It was absolutely to die for. One of the best, maybe the best risotto I've ever had. So I would try my best to copy that.
That's a good idea. I will. Yeah, I love risotto, so that's a good idea. I mean, there's cheese, so I mean, with the parmesan on top, lots of it.
Mhm. Yep.
Ah, yes. Okay, now I'm hungry.
Me too. I need to get lunch.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on the show today and talking
Absolutely.
a little bit more about the new expansion. I think people are having a blast with a new class, a new minion type. I mean, so many new things. It's definitely a breath of fresh air in Hearthstone. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for coming on the show tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me and Vala and Mams as well.
Okay, good. Good. Well, have a great day and I will talk
Yep.
to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.